Welcome, my noble thespians and my happy troupe of theater trolls. I'm your host, Dawn Westbrook, the biggest troll of them all, with my glass of Chardonnay. I hope you'll join me with a glass of something. And for the next few minutes, we're going to focus on the craft of acting, the art of directing, and embracing the process of this crazy career in the theater. I have some wonderful interviews lined up in the coming weeks, and this week is no exception. But first, this week's podcast is being brought to you by the Martha Hill Newell Playwrights Fund, whose commitment is to both local and national playwrights, and holds the belief that the relevance and vitality of American theater depends on the continual infusion of new works. My guest this week is one of my favorite people working in the profession, but also just one of my favorite people in general. Michael Mastro was born in Albany, New York, and from a very early age, he knew that the stage was where he belonged. He has made a living. Did you hear that? He makes a living as a professional actor, director, and coach. He has starred on Broadway in Tony Award-winning shows such as Love, Valour, Compassion by Terrence McNally, for which he has Mario Cantone to thank, but you're going to hear that hilarious story later on, and in Sideman by Warren Leight, starring Edie Falco and Frank Wood. His other stage appearances on Broadway have been opposite Christopher Plummer in Barrymore, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof with Jason Patric, Ashley Judd, and Ned Beatty, and he slipped into some orange spandex and some silver platform shoes when he appeared in the Broadway version of Mamma Mia. And luckily, I got to see that. And in 2009, the Broadway revival of West Side Story, directed by none other than Arthur Lawrence himself. Last year, both he and his husband, Richard Hester, a production supervisor, were in Tokyo, Japan, at the IHI Stage Around Theater. I think I said that right. It's spelled I-H-I, where the show was performed on a 360-degree platform. Look it up. It's quite amazing. Tesla, that had its world premiere at the Sundance Film Festival this past January, starring Ethan Hawke. Let me just say, I love this man. So let's move on to the interview. Oh my goodness. Hi, Michael. How are you?
I'm so excited. The little red thing says recording.
Yes.
Hopes for that.
Well, it said that.
Yes, go ahead. Explain to the people.
I will explain to the people. It said that yesterday, but then somehow during the course of our lovely, fabulous, funny, wonderful interview, Zoom started updating. We were genius. We said, okay, au revoir, bye. And we left the meeting, and I clicked to the folder, and the files were corrupt. So I'm calling this week 2, take 2, or M squared.
So totally honored to be the first, guest on this.
There was no one else that I would rather have had. You are, for those of you that don't know Michael, we met in 1988 and became very, very, very good friends. Not only is Michael one of the most talented and sweetest, I told you I was going to say this again.
Oh boy, here we go.
I mean, I have to say it because I've said it to you for years, but not only good at your craft and so diligent and such a good networker, but also so supportive of your little friends that are in other places other than New York City. And you've never lost sight of just being one of the nicest, most supportive people I have ever known. And I can't thank you enough for all of the support.
Extremely kind of you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
What are we drinking? We
know
what I've got.
What are you drinking? Well, what is that?
We know what I've got. Well, that doesn't do it. Hang on a second. Wait. But anyway, so I've got my glass of, oh, that's not good. That's not Anyway, maybe it's too full. It's my wine glass. So, and I put a little bit of ice in there because it was not, and maybe the ice is what's causing it to not go ting.
Yeah, almond milk, coconut oil, cocoa powder, ice. Blended it up. Nice and frothy, lovely. And don't slurp like you did yesterday either. Hopefully we can thwart that. Maybe one slurp.
Anyway, I've got my wine glass, so we're all good to go. But I want to spend some time talking about your acting career, your life as a coach up in New York City. Michael is an amazing networker, and he has actually a coaching business that he started because a lot of theater programs and a lot of people, like you said, move up there and don't know what they're doing. You helped me immensely when I was
sort of... Yeah, you said we didn't have. I went to NYU, the undergraduate program at NYU, back in the day. Back then, and even nowadays, I have to say most schools I don't feel colleges, undergrad and grad programs don't address the business of acting enough. I really am a strong believer that training is great. I'm grateful for all the different kinds of training I've had, but really the place where the way I got really better as an actor was to actually be doing it. And so that means you have to kind of know how to get a job. And I don't feel acting schools spend enough time teaching people how to get work, what that means, what it means to be a working actor trying to get work. So I kind of got obsessed with that and was doing it, with my friends like you. And an agent of mine started sending clients my way. So I kind of do that on the side. It's not my main thing, but I do love doing it. It's a lovely little extra income, and I just kind of do it compulsively anyway. So I want everyone working.
But what I want to do is when we get done with this, I'm going to post to the Facebook page how people can contact you, picture up there and all that. So if that's okay with you.
That's fine, yeah. Normally I would send people to my website, which is kind of falling apart. I've lost my webmaster. So, but as long as they understand, there's not much on there, but I think they can send me an email there.
When this is done, check my Facebook page, ACT, and I'll give you the information on how to get in touch with Michael. And you don't have to be living in New York for him to work with you. If you've got an audition or something, now's the time to start working on those monologues and things and talk about what you need in order to be able to audition these days in the theater, because auditioning is very different. Would you kind of share with them what you've shared with me on what equipment, basic equipment?
Yes, I'll try to. The term is still being used, self-taping, even though there's no more tape anymore. The standard industry terminology is self-taping. And self-taping certainly, has been de rigueur or with growing frequency for the last, 5-10 years for film and TV. But I have to say the last 3-4 years, theater. My last big theater job, which was I was very blessed to be in a musical that they're developing of the Honeymooners. I got that job from video. I mean, I got the whole job from video auditions. I never saw anyone in the room. The director knew my work from previously, but the writers didn't know me.
Who was the director? Who directed?
The director was John Rando.
Okay.
We have worked together twice before, and so he knew my work, and he was, inclined probably anyway to choose me because it was that role.
And what was the role? Who were you?
The role was Ed Norton, and it's
Art
people
Carney.
have all my life said,
yes,
you remind me of Art Carney when you do a New York accent. So. And of course, I love the show and I love that character.
Yeah, your physicality was great. And your voice sounded wonderful too. It was a great cast and very fun, but they're working. So it's not dead in the water. They're still working on it and doing some tweaks right now.
They are working on it. The writers are working on it, I believe, and hoping to continue to find a way to move forward with it. It's especially difficult at this time to know quite what's possible. But that job came from a series of video auditions. The first one, what the director suggested it, and I said, well, before you bring me in to put me on video with the man playing Ralph Cramden, which was his idea, I said, he was going to China, the director. I said, why don't I make my own YouTube video for you of just myself doing I'll do the sides and sing a song. I'll upload it. You can watch it from China. You can give me adjustments so that when I go into the casting office on Friday, a few days, I said, you can give me notes so that when I go in on Friday, I'll be doing it. We did it all by video is my point. So video is, it's really becoming important. And whenever I go to universities and kids say, what can I be doing? I know I'm still at university, but what can I be doing to get ready for being out in the world for my theater career? And I said, everybody get out a pencil. Write this down. VIDEO. Do you know how to shoot it? Do you know how to light yourself? Do you know how to upload it? Do you know how Vimeo works?
Right.
Or YouTube, or you send it, or all the various Dropbox. There's all different ways to deliver the video.
What would you recommend to the listeners right now of things that just basic things that they might want to have?
Yeah, like an iPhone or a smartphone that has great video capability, which is very easy to find nowadays. For most everybody, the quality of the video on those cameras is perfectly fine. A tripod to go with it, and a device. The one that I use, there are several out there, but I used a device called a Joby, Joby, Joby. It's a little collapsible, tiny thing. You can stick it in your backpack.
Okay.
It opens up, and it's got a spring in it. It's like little jaws that hold your phone.
Grabs the phone.
Right, grabs the phone, and then you can attach on the bottom. There's a little threaded hole that allows you to attach it to a tripod. So that's for the camera. a good sound situation is important. So either a little directional gun mic, I think they call them gun mics that you plug right into the phone, or if you have can get a hold of a lavalier. There are so many websites that you can get stuff on. The website I most often use for all this stuff is called Photo Jojo, PHOTO JOJO, Photo Jojo. The other thing I would highly recommend is some sort of lighting package, and I have to say that I'm finding they have different names. Halo, that people call it a ring light, a halo, a donut light. It's all the same thing. You can go online and buy one. And most of them are like 10 inches or 12 inches in diameter and have a little thing that actually will hold some of them have a thing that will hold your iPhone. The iPhone, so then you wouldn't even need the Joby. Right. And that can all be attached to the tripod. So now you've got great lighting. That's your front lighting, but it's coming from all angles, so it's filling in wrinkles, etc. Stand away from your background, and we can talk about that in a second, but you stand away from your background so that there's not a sharp shadow on the back wall, and that you can also help yourself with some side light, even if it's like a bedroom lamp or a living room lamp. Absolutely. As long as it's warm, keep that over to the side, and that will help take down shadows on the side. And finally, I would say you just want to keep your background in mind. You want to start thinking like you're a little filmmaker. Right. What is the composition of the shot? Are there annoying little light switches in back behind you? Yes. Is there a photo or a painting that's pulling focus from you? Right. It doesn't have to be a bare wall, although certainly there are things called pop-up backgrounds. Right. They sell those also, I think, on Photo Jojo. Mm-hmm. Or you can hang a sheet as long as you iron it so that it's not wrinkled. But keep in mind that you want to make sure that your face is the focus. And your voice your voice, and you don't want other things pulling focus. So those are things to know. Your reader should be off camera just to the left or just to the right, unless you're doing what all of us are doing now, which is we're using Zoom to do self-taping. Zoom allows you to record, as you are doing now, Dawn. They allow you to record video and audio. And the person who is essentially the reader can pin the video of the actor they're recording. Right. So that, and then even though there's lots of Zoom bells and whistles all around on the screen, when you actually do the playback, it's simply the window with the actor who's auditioning with their face. Yes. Their voice in it. So, and that's just about figuring out an eye line for yourself, where to look, just to the right or to the left of the laptop that you're using as a camera or your phone. And even though it is you're on camera and you have to work like you're working for film, our tendency as theater actors is to be big, to talk loudly and have big gestures, and that's not what we want to do. No. Right? In fact, you know what's a great thing to be doing right now? What? Look at things like, I bet a lot of our listeners saw the Stephen Sondheim 90th birthday celebration that was done, right? A couple of weeks ago. Some of them understood composition, what's going on behind them. Yep. And some of them were just kind of, and some of them clearly understood the camera, and some of them were kind of moving too much. I don't take away, I would watch it 100 times. Everybody did beautiful work on it. It was interesting to note that certain people do film work and understand the camera and certain don't. So it's just fun for all of us to start watching things like that and say, what works? For on-camera auditions, we don't look directly in the camera. We look just to the right or just to the left, depending on where you want to imagine your scene partner is. And so we'll talk about some of your, or we could do it now, some of your film work and some of your work that you have done. You just did HBO Paterno with Al Pacino. Football Situation with Jerry Sandusky and Joe Paterno. And then you have a new one coming out that's already, like, right when COVID hit. It was at Sundance, but it's about Tesla, and it's got Ethan Hawke in the lead, correct? Yes, Ethan Hawke in the lead, and it did premiere at Sundance. I believe they're looking for distribution. That's more of an indie film by a wonderful film director, Michael Mastro. And it takes a lot of poetic license. So it is a biopic, but it's a very poetic biopic. Did they do that in Paterno too? Did they take poetic license, or did they? Paterno, I think they really tried. I mean, with Paterno, even though the family was not involved in the making of the film, there were certain people from that world who were consulted. Wow. In fact, I played a real guy named Guido D'Elia, who was a very close friend of the family and who was around during all of that. And I was not allowed to reach out to him. and didn't reach out to him until the day it was going to air on HBO. And then I sent him an email saying, "Hi, you don't know me. I'm playing you in this movie." And he was very lovely. He wrote a note back, very lovely. He actually wrote a note back after watching it. And,
so now let me ask you this. You're getting ready to do a role that they've said, you may not contact this person.
Yes.
How did you do your research?
Very good. Well, I bought a couple of books and I read them, skimmed them, looked through them to see what they had to say about this character of Guido D'Elia. Again, a family friend who he was a family. Sorry.
Pictures, video?
There were some pictures. There was one single video of him being interviewed online. And the minute I saw it, I thought, well, I know partly why they cast me. We look similar. Interestingly, his last name is D'Elia, which is my grandmother's maiden name. I really wanted to understand the situation.
Well, good luck with that. It was a difficult situation.
Very complicated situation, but it was really an honor to be a part of that. And it was, of course, an honor to work with Al Pacino. And it was very interesting, challenging, because I'm having a learning curve. You know, I don't work as much on film and TV as I do on stage. So there was one day where it became clear that Mr. Pacino was not pleased with what I was doing off camera while he was on camera. Yes, well, that's a longer story, but I made the adjustment and everything was fine after that. But on camera.
Wait, I got a question. So he was on camera. Was he looking? Were you trying to feed him the lines that you're?
I had lines. I did have lines. It was a scene that takes place in Joe Paterno's home office, and I had just in the earlier part of the scene been goading him to try and give give us something to say to the press. Finally, he begins talking, and eventually it goes into a monologue. And I was taking notes as I did when I was on camera. But we were doing his close-up, and I was taking notes.
So you were trying to stay consistent.
I was trying to stay consistent. Sure, I think he found that what I was doing a little busy or distracting, and he did make that clear. And he did it while the camera was rolling. I stayed in the moment. Yes, it was very interesting. But it was amazing to watch how he worked. You may all be, if you all want to watch the film, it's really good. But I'll share this with you. I don't think he would mind. He had with him on set. He had an iPhone, and he had a headset. And whenever we weren't shooting, I mean, sometimes he was making calls or whatever, but quite often, as we were in the 15 minutes before going into a scene, he would have videos of Joe Paterno going, and he would have his ear set in, and he was kind of watching it, absorbing it, talking with it. What would be the word I would use? Almost like not hypnotizing himself.
He was kind of embodying
he was just kind of melding with the character, and he continued to do that throughout shoot. I thought that was really an amazing use of what we have today, video, and it was creative, and it was very inspiring to watch him do that.
And one of the things that I had said in week one was, everybody's got their own method, and sometimes you pitch what you've done for one show, and for another when you do something different, and maybe that's something that he decided, oh, this really works. I thought he was fabulous in the
particularly because I think people were expecting him. They were expecting something from him that was not mimicry, but they were expecting something very close.
Yeah, more for him.
The makeup, the hair, the prosthetics were amazing. He looks amazing in it. He really looks like
he was fantastic.
I think he wanted to nail it down. So
well, I would say that he did nail it down.
He was great.
It's a great movie. So it's on HBO, and do check it out. One of the other things I want to talk about, Michael, too, is your acting career on Broadway. And you were in a show that won the Tony.
1995 in a play called Love, Valour, Compassion by Terrence McNally, understudying 3 roles.
Oh my God.
And then I was in a play in 1999 on Broadway, called Sideman.
Oh,
and that play won the Tony Award for the best play of that year. So
and who's the playwright of that? Would you remind everybody?
Sorry, the playwright of Sideman was Warren Light, and he is a wonderful writer, a wonderful playwright who currently is the showrunner of Law and Order SVU, because they're really rather brief scenes. And
you said that when you get one of these scripts, basically what the lines are going to be. It's going to be one of this or one of that. You told me.
Well, it's going to be, how does the client plead? What does the DA have to say? Then I make my pronouncement about whether they're going to Rikers. He's an arraignment court judge, Judge Serrani.
I love it. And so, so, it's all about the connections. So Warren uses you as a judge.
That was definitely part of it. I'm sure that was, Warren invited. Warren, I want to give a shout out to him. Warren is one of the most loyal people I've met in show business. He has sought out roles on that show for everyone who was in Sideman and other actors that he's worked with. He really is, he's really, truly wonderful that way, aside from his prodigious talent, which we,
quite good.
I'm grateful, and I know that SVU is grateful to have him on that show. But I also look forward to more of his plays and perhaps screenplays from him. In fact, we keep nudging him every time we see him. We say, where's the movie of Sideman? Got to be a movie.
Oh, yeah, before you guys age out.
That's right. And you would know all about that because you did Sideman in Richmond, Virginia, Don Westbrook. I couldn't see that one, but boy, I heard you were brilliant. I bet you were.
Well, I played Crazy Terry. Anytime I get to play somebody crazy,
Terry.
But I appreciate you saying that. But Edie Falco originated the role, and then Wendy McKenna, who I saw, and then Angelica Torn.
Then Wendy McKenna came in to do it. Then she left because she was with child, and her doctor said, "No way, you're doing this crazy part while you are pregnant. It's not good for the pregnancy."
No,
so she was just getting ready to leave when Edie had finished her first season of Sopranos. Edie came back. And by this point, we're on Broadway because the show progressed from a small off-Broadway house to a Broadway nonprofit, the Roundabout, to the Golden Theater in a commercial production. And then after Edie left again to do season 2 of Sopranos, Angelica Torn, who had been playing the smaller role of the waitress, she ascended into the role, and she did it with us.
Did you ever ask her which role she liked doing better?
Who, Angelica?
Uh-huh.
I didn't, but I can't imagine she
was wonderful in both because I got to see her.
She was wonderful. She's a wonderful actress.
Really wonderful, and of course, the supporting role is always fun. You don't have the pressure of playing the lead, but she was wonderful. She slid right in and did a great job. And then when I did it here in Richmond, your company was over in London.
That's right.
And Warren had made some changes to the script, correct?
That's right, because we did it on Broadway, and then we were getting ready to close on Broadway, and the Kennedy Center called and said, "We just lost a show. Can you come down and finish your Sideman run here?" So we were like, "Wow, you got to go to the Kennedy Center." So we went there, and then we were at the Kennedy Center, and one of the producers who also worked in London said, "Do you guys want to come to London to do it in the West End?" And we were like, through the moon. I mean, who doesn't want to go work in the West End? Once. So we were over there doing it for about 5 months, and at that time, yes, there were 2 different productions going on in America while we were doing it in London. One was yours.
Right.
And the other one was
at
Stephanie
Barksdale
Zimbalist.
Theater.
You did it at Barksdale, and the other one was Stephanie Zimbalist, who did it at the Guthrie. And both of you were reaching out to me in London for any rewrites we had. I remember that.
You didn't tell me that Stephanie was going for it too. Well, I tell you what, if I'm in a group of people, of actresses with Edie and Wendy and Angelica and Stephanie, I'm in.
Girl, you're right in the middle. You're shining. You're the shiniest Betty right in the middle.
But I tell you what, the common denominator is sweet Michael Mastro. So, Michael, tell me about, I remember as your friend.
I paid her to say all this, all you people who are listening.
No, he didn't.
Big bucks.
He really didn't. But tell me, you have got an hysterical story about going in as the understudy for Love, Valour, and the day you were supposed to go on, and then the day you went on for Mario. Would you please share with them this? Because this is just too good not to, it's too juicy not to tell.
I do love to tell the story. Got the job. I auditioned for the job after the play had moved to Broadway from off-Broadway. And there was an understudy who was understudying 3 roles. His name is Stephen Skybell, and if I'm correct, Dawn, you're going to be having him as guest on your show.
You know what? I haven't asked him yet, but I'm hoping maybe he'll listen to this.
Well, I'll email him and tell him he's got to do it.
His husband, who is one of my best buds, Michael Cole, who moved up to be Stephen Schwartz's assistant, and love him. And actually, Michael's brother is here, Bob Cole, in Richmond, Virginia. So Michael comes down every now and then, and Stephen's been down. And we've been able to go to meet at Joe's Inn or meet at these restaurants. So I know Stephen. I didn't get a chance to see him in Fiddler, which I cannot believe.
Oh my God!
I know.
It was so beautiful.
Oh my God!
What a beautiful production. The Yiddish was an all Yiddish production done off Broadway last year, directed by Joel Gray. It was absolutely beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Brilliant. Talking over each other. It's because we're so excited. People, forgive us. We're so excited about Stephen Skybell. Yes, I will happily reach out to him for you.
Thank you.
Anyway, Stephen was going to leave. He had been the understudy for, 6 months or something, and he was getting ready to leave. I auditioned for the role. That's another story for another day. That was great fun too. But I got the role, and
no, don't do it for another day. It's a great story. Tell that story.
Okay. So,
please.
Well, I suppose this is all about networking in a weird way
about
too.
The process.
It's about process, and it's about, you know what? It's about, there are lots of talented people in this industry. I cannot stress enough, though. So much of what happens for all of us in this business is about who you know.
And how you are.
And how you are, and,
yes.
and making sure that you're a good person to work with, and that you're a member of the Clean Plate Club, and that you have a good sense of humor, and that you leave a good,
taste in their mouth.
Exactly, a good taste in their mouth.
We're hungry. Exactly. We're hungry.
We're taping this at dinner time, so
we're hungry. Well, I'm going to keep drinking my Chardonnay until we finish. But anyway, so tell the story.
So I was a member of a theater company. Am a member of a theater company in New York called Naked Angels, which was very busy producing at that time in the 90s. Wonderful group of talented people, yes. And one of those people is Joe Mantello, the director and beautiful actor Joe Mantello. Yes. And Joe directed Love, Valour, Compassion. And Joe actually brought Terrence to see me in a one-act play that Terrence had written for an evening of one acts that we did at Naked Angels. So Terrence had some experience of seeing me. Joe certainly knew my work from over the years. And they invited me to audition to understudy to replace Steven Skybell. So I had my audition. I was getting ready for my audition. About 2 nights before, I was at Joe Allen, a restaurant in New York where a lot of actors hang out. And, you know, a point I like to make to people is, if you would like to be a member of a community in New York, then go hang out where the community hangs out, you know?
Right. And you're lucky if you get a table. I always like going to New York because Mike can always get a table. And what's the restaurant upstairs, the bar upstairs?
Bar Centrale.
Yeah, Bar Centrale. Yes. Oh, fabulous. They make a great and a very dangerous Cosmo. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, they do.
Okay.
And that's right upstairs from Joe Allen. So when this is all over and you come up to New York, you guys frequent these places.
Oh, they're so good. Anyway, so you.
But I was at Joe Allen. I was at Joe Allen about 2 nights before my audition. I ran into Joe. He said, "You're going in to audition." I said, "Yes." Boy, I hope this works out. I'd love to do it. He said, "Listen, you know, I want you. Terrence wants you. We want you. You're just going to jump through one hoop. The theater hasn't approved you yet, and so their associate artistic director Michael Bush will be there for your audition." And so I went into my audition. I was really, really prepared, and Michael was there, very lovely. And I began reading my first scene with one of the 3 characters I was doing. And I think I got about halfway down the first page. And he laughed a few times, and then he said, "Okay, stop." He said, you want this, right? I said, I do. I want this. Yes, I want it very much. He said, "Yeah, good. Okay, just go home. We'll call your agent."
Oh my God.
And welcome. Yeah. So the only time I can think of in my professional life where I was told I had a job before I left the room. And
okay, wait, so he said, "And welcome," so you knew you had it?
He I can't remember the exact words, but
intimated that you had it.
He clearly made me understand they were calling my agent with an offer.
Did you walk out of the room like your feet weren't touching the ground?
I remember the walk home? I was on West 16th Street, and I walked east on West 16th over to Greenwich Avenue, down Greenwich Avenue, and to the place I lived on 9th Street and 6th Avenue, and I floated up my 5 flights of stairs, or 4 flights to my 5th floor walk up. There was a message on my answering machine. Remember answering machine?
And
I listened. My agent was on there, and she said, "Call me." And I called her. She said, "Congratulations. This is your first Broadway show. And since you have no leverage whatsoever, you're going to simply take the offer that they're offering you." And it was low for Broadway, but it was the most money I'd ever made. I was able finally to buy an air conditioner that summer. I'll never forget it. This happened in June.
Was it in what year?
June 1995.
1995, right.
Yep.
And so you graduated from NYU.
I graduated from NYU in 84. Right. So listen up, people. Sometimes it takes a while. I graduated in June 84, and I didn't get my first Broadway job till June 95.
And they told you that, didn't they say, your freshman year?
God, you remember that story.
Because
someone came to visit. We had we're jumping all over. Are you guys following? Are all the people listening following? I hope so. So back when I was at NYU, we had a class, my first year, we had a class called Intro to New York Theater. And I wish I could remember, maybe it was John Rubinstein, or I don't remember who it was who came to visit. But they said, this gentleman said, somebody told me that it was going to take 10 years before I started working regularly in the business. And
that's about right.
That was true for him. And that's really kind of what happened for me. Before Broadway, I did a couple of regional things. I did a lot of free theater, showcase co-productions in storefronts and gymnasiums and outdoor. But this was my first Broadway gig. And so I got home from that audition, called my agent. She said, "You'll take the money." I said, "I'll take the money." She said, "You're going to go tomorrow and pull that stage door open at the Walter Kerr Theater. The stage manager, Billy, will give you the script. You have 2 weeks to get ready. And then you'll have a 2-week rehearsal period. And then you're ready to go on." So that's 3 huge roles in a 3-hour, 3-act play. And basically rehearsal for that was Tuesday afternoon, Thursday afternoon, Friday afternoon, 4 hours each. So for 2 weeks, I had 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. So 1 character on Tuesday, character 2 on Thursday, character 3 on Friday, and then the same next week. So essentially I had 8 hours of rehearsal, period, on all these characters. Okay. And it didn't even occur to me to be terrified or that this was outrageous. I was just...
Let me ask you a question. Yeah. So when you do those rehearsals, are you with the other actors? I don't think that you are. So would you tell people that?
Anytime you're rehearsing to replace on Broadway, later on I would replace in a little show that people might have heard of called Mamma Mia. And the same thing happened for that. You go to rehearsal usually with either the production stage manager or sometimes an associate director. Okay. With a musical, that can happen now. Things are sort of morphing and changing a little. But usually it's the production stage manager who is responsible for rehearsing actors into the show. And you will work with the other understudies. So the first people I worked with were the other understudies, right? So those were amazing days, and I still remember one of the roles was the role that Nathan Lane had originated. It's the role of Buzz. And the role was currently being played by a wonderful actor who I believe you're also going to try to get on this podcast, Mario Cantone.
Oh my God, yes.
Mario was sensational. And he was sensational, but Mario...
He's never not sensational. He's always
He isn't, but Mario isn't stupid. He's so freaking good. And Mario understood, like, there were things that Mario did just... I say musically, it was a play, but there were things that he did comedically and musically that he absorbed, if you will, or we don't like to use the word stole, but he absorbed them from Nathan Lane, and they worked.
Smart.
Right? So I'm in the middle of my understudy rehearsals, and I will never forget this wonderful PSM, Billy Barnes, said to me one day, he came up to me in the rehearsal, he said, "You know, you're a really wonderful actor." I said, "Oh, gee, thanks, Billy. You know, it's very nice." But I knew something was coming.
But
butter me up.
Where are we going?
He said, "But here's the deal." He said, "Right now what's starting to happen is you're doing your own take on Buzz." I said, "Yes." He said, "Your job right now is to bring yourself and your guts and your emotional life to the choices of the actor that's playing the role right now, because this 3-hour play is like a freight train and you got to jump on and get on. And if you start doing different comedic rhythms and things that are so different,
it'll throw everybody else off.
The rest of the cast off. We can't do that." He said, if you were replacing, if not understudy, if you were replacing and we had a period of time for you to work some of those things in and do late rehearsals by bringing in the actual actors who do the show at night, we could work your stuff in. But as an understudy, your job is to help keep the curtain up and keep it moving the way it moves.
And that
was a great lesson
yesterday. And I think there is a type of person that is a type of actor that is has understudy bones. They are able to just do it. I am not one of them. I did understudy once and I said, "Oh, hell no, I am never doing this again. It is not for me." I think I lost 10 pounds. I couldn't eat. I couldn't concentrate. I lived all day with the script and just paralyzed in fear that I was going to be asked to do it. We have a gal, Emily Skinner, was here in Richmond doing MAME. And there's a gal here in town who's very talented. Her name is Susan Sanford. And like, she posted on Facebook, "Going on today for the matinee and the night show." I think Emily was having some vocal trouble or something and needed a break. But she went on. She is brilliant. And I'm like, how do you even do that? Like you said, you went on that day and you're like, I don't.
Well, right. So I'll say 2 things. You know, here's the thing. That show, Love, Valour, Confession, was so beautiful. I used to watch it. I watched it 60, 70 times.
Oh, yeah.
I watched it many times every week, and I was never bored because the actors in the show were so beautiful that I was actually I decided to just sort of embrace what they were doing.
Right.
And I was honored to sort of bring myself to their choices, because you know what? They were great choices. And I learned, and the point of all this being, I've always been a comedic actor, but I would say of my comedy, certainly up to that point, that perhaps I would use the word elicit. Like, I would elicit laughs by doing certain things. Nathan Lane, who Mario Cantone was borrowing from, if you will, Nathan Lane commands a laugh. So I kind of embraced that. And I started basically, part of what I was doing was imitating certain musical rhythms that Nathan does. So it was a great learning experience, because it gave me, it gave me more tools to put into my comedy bag.
Into your arsenal. I call it the arsenal.
Into my arsenal.
Arsenal.
We do have 2 weeks of rehearsal. Now I'm official, right? So it's like the beginning of July. It's the beginning of July.
Yeah.
About a week into my time there, one of the other actors I was understudying, Anthony Heald. Do you remember Anthony Heald? Tony Heald. He was on Boston Legal. He was.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody listening would remember him from Silence of the Lambs.
Oh my God.
The shrinker who Tony Hopkins is going to have for dinner at the end of the movie.
Oh, poor soul.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm having a friend for dinner. Anyway, beautiful stage actor, Tony Heald. Tony Heald always got to the theater at 6:30. Well, it was 6:30 one night, and I was staying after we had rehearsal that day. I stayed after to run lines with the assistant director. I'm now a week officially into the role, just a week, still drilling my lines every day, still rehearsing every day, even though I'm official. Still rehearsing every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. We continue rehearsing. And also, by the way, I was beginning to rehearse actors who were going to replace the actual actors doing the parts. So now that was good for me.
Gave you practice as well. Yeah.
Yes, it gave me practice. But we're just a week into my official understudy dumb. And so it's 6:45. Remember where we left this story? It's 6:45. Yes. I'm running lines. The casting director, the stage manager comes into me. He says, listen, Tony Heald is always here at 6:30. It's 6:45. He's not here. I don't want to make you nervous. The show's not till 8, but this is really unlike him. So just putting you on,
And you go,
better focus on that character.
The part about not making me nervous, well, that just went out the door. I'm already nervous.
Oh, yeah. So Perry, the character is Perry. So I look at the young woman, lovely assistant director, saying, we're going to be focusing on Perry's lines now. So we're drilling Perry's lines. 7 o'clock comes. Focus. Yeah. 7 o'clock comes. He walks by the stage manager. Mike, Tony's not here yet. I just want to let you know. Okay. Going away now. He goes away, 7:15, not there. 7:30. He and the assistant stage manager.
Oh, God.
The assistant stage manager, Ira Mont, with whom I had gone to NYU. And they come to the room at 7:30 and they look at me. I know, are you sweating? And I would like to share with all of you listening now. There's a phrase that we all like to use sometimes. And I'm going to be bold. Since Dawn used the word slut at the beginning of this at the beginning of her program, we've all used the term scared shitless. I'm here to tell you there really is such a thing. I'm here to tell you that when they came to me at 7:30 and said, looks like you're going on, I literally stood up, I walked straight to the John, and I evacuated every single thing within me. Yeah, my body was like, you're going to need every ounce of energy you can to get through. Right. So 7:30 comes. They take me now to the dressing room to his dressing room.
Right.
Where I'm supposed to get dressed, and all the other actors are coming out of their dressing rooms. It's like 4 flights up. They're coming out of their dressing rooms. I'm walking down. John Hickey, Stephen Bogardus. They're all coming out. It's gonna be great, Mike. It's gonna be great. And I'm thinking to myself, gee golly, these guys are so nice. And of course, now I realize these guys were scared shitless themselves. They have an understudy going on who's like 2 weeks. I get down to the basement where there was clothing racks for all the quick change. And at that moment, over the God mic, the stage doorman makes an announcement. Hi, Tony Heald just called from Port Authority. His bus was stuck in the tunnel from New Jersey, but he's here now. He's going to run to the theater. He'll be here in 5 minutes. It was 8 o'clock. I fell down. I threw myself down onto the floor in the basement of the Walter Kerr Theater, writhing in relief. And Billy Barnes comes, I look up, and suddenly his face is over me going, Michael, you can go on. If you want to go on, that's the equity rule. He wasn't here by half. And I looked at him and I said, you get that fucker on that stage. I do not. I really just, listen, I love acting. But that was huge 3-hour role.
pressure.
And that character talked more than any. Perry has, I think, the most lines in the whole play. As he entered the theater, I ran up and I was literally on my knees with my hands in a prayer position. Yes. As he approached his dressing room, he's like, baby, I'm so sorry. I was like, just get in your dressing room and get your fucking clothes on. So why that was great. That was great that happened because 1 week later on Tuesday night.
This is the story.
On Tuesday night, July 18th, you can look it up in your calendars, 1995.
Oh my God!
We're the three understudies. We're going over our lines. We're listening to the show on the squawk box, and we're up in our little dressing room acting out all our parts with each other.
So the show's going on downstairs.
While the show's going on, so that we're drilling our lines along with the show, and you're learning rhythms and all that.
Sure.
And at some point, Kirk Jackson, one of the other understudies, says, Mario doesn't sound right. Mario doesn't sound right. I think he's losing his voice. We all listen. Sure enough, intermission comes, and Billy Barnes and Ira Monk come to me and said, "We really can't believe this is happening." I think that's when they said it. I don't think Steve Skybell ever went on in this part, but I think Mario's losing his voice, and you better be prepared. Just think about tomorrow. You may be going on the 2 shows tomorrow. And there was the message from Billy. You're going on today. John Glover, the actor who won the Tony Award for Best Actor that year, who was in the show, John would like to meet you at noon and just run through your scenes with you on stage. And I thought, oh, that's so lovely of him. Again, I'm sure he was just wanted to make sure that, I was going to crash and burn.
Yeah.
It was nice to have therapy right before that. But I got to the theater at noon. We went through the scenes. He was quite lovely. I did go on. I don't remember that because I was in such, I think anyone listening
was this the matinee? You went on
the matinee. Wednesday matinee, July 19th, 1995. That was my Broadway debut. I still have the little slip of paper they put in the program that says that this performance, the role of Buzz, will be played by Michael Mastro. A friend of mine saved it. God bless him, and it's in a frame.
Aww.
I'm very romantic about Broadway.
Is that what you just looked at on the wall? Did you just look?
I did. I have it. I can show it to you.
He just looked. He went to see. Is it still there?
It's still there with the ticket stub and but anyway, I went on. I don't much remember it.
The matinee.
Except that I knew it went very well, and I remember.
Go ahead,
getting some. I did get a little exit applause at one point where no one else ever got it. So I hope I wasn't doing anything too focus pulley. But come on! And,
had he gotten exit applause, Mario? Had he gotten exit applause at that?
I don't believe either Mario or Nathan before him. Maybe they did. I don't know.
Right, but you did get it.
It's the only moment I remember. I think most of us would probably remember something like that because, I guess I have a little ego.
Well, what happened? Did Mario just get a cold? What was the problem?
Right. Mario swears to this day, he still tells the story. He went out for dinner that Tuesday night before the show. He had a burrito from someplace, and he said, I am telling you, I swear to God, I can't do his Boston accent. He said, I swear to God, I'm sure that they put that burrito, I'm sure they warmed it up in a microwave because he said it was not even hot on the outside, but it was scalding. It scalded me. It burned me in the back of it. So he got a burn in the back of his throat.
Bless his heart. I'm sure it burned me in the back of my throat. Yeah. Right. He always, he has a great voice anyway, but it always sounds kind of husky.
He does. He's a very unique voice, and it does sort of sound like he may be losing it. But so that when you hear it night after night, though, and he actually is losing it, there's a difference. You can hear it. So I went on that day and I went on that night. I was grateful for what had happened the week before with Tony Healed because I knew what was going to happen in my body. But really, I understood what was going to. Yes, that, but also just what that feeling of that electricity and the nerves, and I had a chance to commandeer them and to kind of use that energy as performance.
And I will say that this is, one of the things that I like. Everybody's going to be different, but this is one of the things I wanted to talk about because everybody has ways and processes. And one of the things theater training does is it tells you gives you tools to be able to physiologically bring that down so that you can focus on what you need to do. If your throat gets dry or whatever, how do you continue to go on? And so training is amazing for that, but you never know how you're going to be until it happens. So
right, and please again, I want to say I'm all for training.
I am too.
I just think at a certain point you can't go on as the understudy for Mario Cantone until you go on as the understudy for Mario Cantone. You can't there is no school that can quite prepare you for that. So I think everybody listening would probably.
I would agree. It's not in my bones. If anybody out there ever wants me to understudy, just don't even ask, because I'm going to say a big old fat no. Thank you, but no thank you. You want to give me the lead, I'll take it, but I ain't going on as an understudy. Okay, so Michael, let's move on to okay, we've talked about acting and coaching and what a career you've had. And I want to talk about your directing. And you recently were the associate or the
I was
George Street
the term they came. Yeah, there's a regional theater. I work at many wonderful theaters. Penguin Rep in upstate New York is a wonderful place. With Joe Brancato. It's a great place to work. Another place I have worked a lot is the George Street Playhouse in New Brunswick, New Jersey, which is about 50 minutes outside New York. And in fact, the Performing Arts Center there, if you are listening and live in that area, it's worth checking out when they're back up and running. But I've acted in 5 or 6 plays there. I've directed, I think, 4 or 5 plays there.
Right. And David Saint, is he?
And David Saint, who is the artistic director there and has been, and has really built it into a beautiful cultural, a beautiful part of the cultural world of that area of
He's really got the support of that neighborhood, right? In that area.
He's all kudos go to him for the great success that theater is. But David's a friend, and David asked me. David is also. This is just
I know.
I'm just sort of connecting
it's
all these things.
About that networking.
So David was a very close friend of Arthur Lawrence's. He was Arthur Lawrence, who wrote West Side Story and Gypsy and The Way We Were.
And who liked my heels?
And who liked your heels?
Do you remember? That?
Were you there that night?
Oh my God. No, it's when I saw you in West Side Story up in DC at the National.
That's
and Arthur Lawrence was there that night, and he came out, and he was like, we were walking beside him, and he went, "Oh, I love those shoes." And they were high heels, he liked my stuff. I was like, "Oh my God, thank you, Arthur."
So this is good to remember as we continue to pursue our careers, that we may think we're 6 degrees of separation away, but we're often quite much many fewer degrees away from people we might need to reach out to.
So he left.
David and Arthur were friends. David was very involved in the Broadway revival of West Side Story, which Arthur cast me in the role of Glad Hand in 2008, 9, 10. And David was also very, very involved in the making of the movie with Steven Spielberg. And he was signed on to be a consultant on that film, and the idea was that it was going to happen all quite quickly.
Oh, you mean West Side Story?
West Side Story, the film.
Okay.
And so he thought he was going to be in LA for the next year or two a lot. So he asked if I would fill in for him. So it was more like I was the understudy or artistic director. We called it the resident artistic director because I was in residence on the campus there.
But you are such an actor's director because you are such a good actor. And I'm just going to throw out some names here of some people that you have worked with, because I think it's quite impressive. While you were at George Street, you directed Stephanie Zimbalist, whose name has been mentioned already earlier, playing Crazy Mary and
great gal, Stone Touch.
At George Street Playhouse and Subject of Roses. Anybody in town want to do it? I don't think I'm too old to do it yet, but I'll be more than glad to play it.
Beautiful play. People should be doing that play.
Oh, I know.
Subject was Roses.
Beautiful.
So
I'm so
beautiful.
sorry I didn't get a chance to see it, but some of the other names of people that you have directed, and the list is like, oh my God, I'd be shaking in my boots. Bernadette Peters, John Dawson, Edie Falco, who's a friend because you did Sideman together. Melissa Leo, unbelievable. Cynthia Nixon, John Slattery, Stockard Channing. I mean, my question to you is, when I look at this list, I'm like, okay, I'm a fairly good director. I don't live in New York, but I would feel comfortable going to rehearsal. But if I saw this list, I'd be like, I'd have that same physiological reaction that you had before you went on as an understudy. I'd be like, excuse me, I gotta go to the bathroom. How do you harness that and make it be okay and like let them know that you're in control?
Well, I will say that most of those names, some of those people I know and knew. Some of those people I didn't know. Most of the list of the very fancy names that you mentioned, I directed them in one-night benefit readings of plays like Love Letters and Collected Stories by Donald Margulies, et cetera, but it was still, in many cases, several days working with these people. And, to your The most direct answer to your question, I mean, the image that comes up is the first time that happened, it was Bernadette Peters.
Okay, tell the story.
I was directing a one-night reading of love letters for an organization here in New York that is fantastic called Opening Act. They bring after-school theater programs into city schools that can't afford them. And for years, the organization was run by a woman, a beautiful, fantastic woman and friend named Susie Myers, who asked me at some point, she said, would you direct one of these? I said, sure, I think you could up your game in terms of visibility. Right. You have me in these readings, but I'm not going to sell the kind of tickets that somebody famous would sell. She said, all right, let's try. Who do you think we can get? I said, well, who do you want? And we made a dream list of like Meryl Streep and Kevin Kline. I think those were the first two we went to. We called their agents. Their agents said, no, don't call us, call their publicists for a one night thing. We called their publicists. They all sent lovely notes back saying, thank you so much for asking. We can't do this right now, but keep us posted. And that was, Meryl Streep and Kevin Kline. So that gave us courage. So we just kept asking. Finally, my husband, Richard Hester, who is a spectacular production stage manager and has been for the last almost 15 years working on Jersey Boys, first as the production stage manager and then as the supervisor of all productions worldwide. He had worked on Gypsy, the Broadway revival of Gypsy.
With Bernadette, right?
Gypsy and Annie Get Your Gun, both with Bernadette. So he knew Bernadette from that. And he said, what about Bernadette? I said, well,
okay.
Do you think she would do it? I mean, he said, well, we can ask. So I sent an email to her via her assistant and she said, yes. And then we said, well, great. Well, who would you love to read with? She gave us a list of actors. We approached them. They were unavailable, but they were lovely in their declining. And then she said, well, what about John Dossett? I just did Gypsy with him. John and I work well together, et cetera. He's a beautiful actor. Yeah. Oh. And I knew John. So we got them. They said yes. And so I didn't want to take up a lot of their time in preparation. So I sent them an email saying, we'll just, I know you're very busy. We'll do one read through on the day of. It's love letters. So you don't have to pretend you're not reading, you're reading. Right. So it's all good. And then, I don't know, a couple weeks before, Bernadette's assistant called and said, Michael, Bernadette was wondering if maybe you'd like to stop by and maybe you could talk a little bit about the script.
Oh my God.
And I thought, exactly. I was like, oh, okay. I'm sure I'm up for it, but I just didn't want to take up too much of her time. And so I remember the day getting into the taxi to go to her Upper West Side abode. I just remember sitting there going, I have just gotten in a taxi. On my way to direct Bernadette Peters. This is crazy. I can't even, is this happening?
That's success right there.
And I got to her apartment and she was lovely. And her dog, her then dog, he's passed away since, Kramer, was there. And he kind of came over to her while we were having tea at the table before we really got started.
Right.
And she sang to him. I don't know if she would remember this, but she sang, I think You Made Me Love You. You made me love you. I mean, yes, imagine you're sitting having tea with Bernadette Peters and she sings the entire song of You Made Me Love You. I was getting a private concert in her apartment. It was crazy. I can't, even now, I pinch myself. But she was a doll. And you know what? She's a worker. She's a worker bee. They're all worker bees. All these people that I worked with, they just want to know the truth. They just want your help. All of them. Stockard Channing,
and they still do.
Bo Bridges, Jean Smart. All these people, they just want help. They just want to be good. And we're all here working. They're the thing that they don't respond to well is somebody treating them like,
like they're up
you're
above
googly eyed and you're a big star. They just want to be working.
Just treat me like
And so if you just focus on the work and focus on what you want to bring out of the play, etc., pretty soon you're sailing and everybody's everybody's working hard. And she was great in that. She and John Dossett were beautiful, and Cynthia Nixon and John Slattery were great in a thing called Hate Mail, which is a kind of comic send up of love letters. It's fun to do.
Well,
anyway,
so
that's what happens with that. If we focus on the work, that takes care of that.
Then there you go. So that's the process. Yeah. Now, I'm about ready to kind of wrap up here. If you are, my Chardonnay is kind of dwindling here, so I need to go do a regroup.
Wait, I'm going to give you a sound effect. I'm at the bottom of my almond milk cocoa shake thing.
Okay. You can't do better than that?
On the top.
Okay, all right, that's foam. All right. And I'm just going to drink my last little bit here. But one question that I want to ask you if you had not chosen theater as your profession, what do you think Michael Mastro, Michael squared, because it's week 2, take 2, what do you see yourself doing?
When I was in high school, I particularly loved biology class, and I was particularly taken with the reproduction and development section of biology. And I thought I used to make the science teacher stay after and draw pictures of, like, I didn't understand how the fetus, et cetera, and the ovaries and the sperm. And I think I certainly thought about being an OBGYN because the whole process of the pregnancy.
It is a miraculous. It is a surreal and miraculous, having been pregnant and gone through the birth. It is just a crazy thing, and it's amazing. Our bodies are meant to do it. I don't know if we're meant to do it at the age that I had Sydney. I was 41, but I can see that. But you know what? You would have been because I said early on how nice you are as a person. And the only problem with you is that you'd probably take too much time with patients, because you'd get to talking, and women love that. Women love that bedside manner, man. They love that.
I will say too, it's always been interesting to me. I know a lot of actors who were in pre-med first, and a lot of doctors are fascinated with the theater.
Or fascinated with the arts. There are a lot of doctors that play with the symphonies. They do. We have a couple of friends that do that. And I am an actress director, but I just got my master's of science in healthcare interpreting. So it is something and I was going to be a doctor before I knew, my senior year, my band teacher, my drama teacher, and my chorus teacher all took me aside and went, okay, this nursing thing, you got to get into a program, get into a BFA program, just try it and see. I'm sure my parents weren't happy, but they were still very supportive and loving.
Well, thank God your teacher said that. So I hope that listening to this, all you out there, I hope listening to this wasn't sort of discombobulated.
God bless you going through this time right now in Manhattan of COVID-19. It's been crazy, and hopefully we'll start opening up, but who knows when it's really going to get back to, where it was. I don't know if it ever will get back to where it was.
Well,
but
yeah, I think we're going to do it. I like what our governor says, instead of just coming back the way it was, how about we come back better? How about we learn from this time what we can learn and actually put things in place that
and I do think that the world can learn from artists in general, that they are the most flexible and creative people in times of difficulty. I think they continue to have their platform and their need to create. You also yesterday said something about Trader Joe's.
We happen to live in a neighborhood, my husband and I, that is we have a Whole Foods 1 block away and a Trader Joe's 3 blocks away. We're very, very blessed.
Very lucky.
I'm a little bit of a Trader Joe's junkie. But the people who live up behind that ground floor window have been hanging signs out their window because the window's open. And sometimes there are people in line who talk very loudly, and they just did it once or twice, and then it got to be a thing. So whenever they hear overly loud conversations, they write on poster boards sort of responses to the conversations.
Responses, or they do like a transcript.
Or sometimes they do a transcript.
Okay.
It'll say something like, "Hey Dawn, we're so glad that you love Trader Joe's, snap pea treats. But listen, maybe you could talk about it a little less loudly." Or, they're always writing comments like that. Anyway, they're posting them all on Instagram. And the Instagram, they're just a lot of fun. To give you an idea of how creative people in New York are grappling with this time, they're a lot of fun, and they have an Instagram. Their Instagram is Trader Joe's line UWS. No punctuation, all small letters, no spaces.
Right.
Trader Joe's line UWS, which stands, for those of you who don't know, for Upper West Side.
Upper West Side.
Trader Joe's line UWS.
You could use them as a monologue or a little mini scene. I mean, they're really funny. I read some of them.
You saw them, right?
Hysterical. Yes, after last night when the corrupted file thing happened. Yeah, while I was waiting for that to upload, and it didn't. But anyway, hopefully today will be great. But Michael, I just want to say to both you and Richard and all the actors and directors and artists that are up in New York, those of us that are in other places of the United States, just wish you the very, very best. Stay healthy.
So enjoyed the theater I've seen in Richmond.
Oh, thank you. Anyway, I just want to say thank you so much for all your support throughout the years. Thank you so much. Again, here you go, your #1 interview, and here you are sitting with me doing this, not once, but twice.
Well, this was a blast, and I want to wish you great luck on the future of this podcast. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you.
And I want to just a big shout out to all of you theater artists and theater lovers and artists in general down there in Richmond. Keep the faith. Let's all get through this together, and we'll see you on the other side.
Absolutely. See you on the flip side. And Michael, I love you so much. And we'll call it a call it a session. Thank you so much.
All right, be well.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, I think that about does it for this week's podcast. I can't thank you enough for listening. Remember, you can find me on Facebook under ACT and on Instagram and Twitter under ActingPod. Or you can visit my website at www.dawnwestbrook.com and ask questions, give suggestions, and feedback. But for now, as W.C. Fields once said, a man's got to believe in something. So, my noble artist and my happy troupe of theater trolls, I do believe I shall have another drink. May the footlights burn bright and your interactions, both on stage and off, be rewarding. Thanks for joining me. I'm Dawn Westbrook, your host, and this is ACT. This week's podcast is sponsored by the Martha Hill Newell Playwrights Fund.